At the end of the week, you will be an entirely different person.
What happens in Thailand?
Mike White's White Lotus is back for another season, and we're so excited to see what will go wrong this time around in the ragtag team of grumpy white people. So join us once again as we introduce you guys to the crew of this season of White Lotus and consider if they could be the killer or the ones getting killed. Before we go into our explanation, we'll have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Everyone tells me what a great man you are.
What if we lost everything?
Honestly, I don't know.
Premise of Season 3. This time around, after the lovely tour of the White Lotus in Hawaii and Italy, we're now smack dab in the middle of the beautiful and visceral Thailand. This episode sets the tone extremely well. We see Zion, Belinda's son, yeah, that's right, our girl Belinda is back, sitting with Dr. Amrita at the spa trying out meditation. However, right as Amrita and Zion start to relax, they hear gunshots being fired. Zion noticed the earlier shots before Amrita, and by the time he clocked in on what was happening, shots were getting fired towards them. Zion and Amrita run their separate ways, and being a smart kid, Zion enters the backwaters the scenic resort is surrounded by. He travels through the backwaters, wading through the lily pads and flowers while dodging the shooter. Eventually, he sees a Buddha statue and runs towards it, partly to hide and partly to pray for Belinda's safety. Once he's done making his little prayer, he turned his face to the left and, oh, would you look at that, we've got our dead body, peeps, floating face down in the water and everything. The episode then hops back 7 days and we're introduced to the messy rich people we'll be following this season. So let's get down to it. First up, we have...
Well, let's get talking.
Greg. So let's just get this right out of the way, all right? We're all thinking it. Everybody together now. We hate you, Greg. So in case you haven't seen the last 2 seasons of White Lotus weeks before Season 3 premiered, we gotcha. Let me tell you about this absolutely abhorrent man. We're introduced to Greg in the first season of the show. Greg Hunt is a sports fisherman who was staying at the White Lotus Resort in Maui. He met Tanya McQuad, played by the gorgeous Jennifer Coolidge, out for dinner. Tanya, over here, had some issues of her own. She originally came to Maui to spread her mother's ashes. While there, she met Belinda and befriended the spa manager. She was supposed to have dinner with Belinda, but when Greg asked her out, Tanya went with Greg. In her eyes, the spa venture with Belinda was just a business opportunity that she was mildly interested in, while for Belinda, this was her entire life's goal. As you can guess, Greg and Tanya got involved, and even though Tanya called herself an emotional wreck, Greg insisted that he wanted her. He also confessed that he had a terminal illness and wasn't sure about how to get the treatment. Tanya, who was practically drowning in love with Greg at this point, decided to be the one to get Greg the treatment he needed by helping him out financially. Sweet gesture, right? Absolutely nothing can go wrong here, right? Well, luckily for us, we didn't have to wait too long to find out. Greg and Tanya, now a married couple, show up at the White Lotus Resort in Sicily. Things aren't looking too good between the two. Greg isn't happy that he still has to work according to their prenup, even though he married rich. Gold digger much? The tension between the two keeps on rising. It reaches its peak when Greg finally lays it out on Tanya for bringing Portia, her young assistant, on their romantic getaway. Tanya tries to make it better by asking Portia to remain out of sight, but if only it were that easy to get Portia off Greg's mind. Eventually, Greg left Sicily for Denver, claiming he had work, but as you can guess, that added another layer on top of this tumultuous marriage. After Greg left, Tanya was emotionally distraught and tried to find some happiness in Portia's company and availing the services of the resort. She sat for a tarot reading session, and when the tarot reader claimed that Greg was in love with someone else, Tanya got even more distressed. At the resort, she met and befriended Quentin, who opened up to her about his sad love life. He talked about a cowboy he loved once, but the cowboy never chose him because he was straight. Well, what do you know? When Tanya was on the boat owned by Quentin and his friends, she found a picture of a young Quentin with the cowboy, and that cowboy looked very much like Greg. So it could be that Greg was the one who planned all of this. That's the thought process Tanya goes off on, and she shoots all the guys on the boat dead. However, in her haste to escape, she dies. Whether or not Greg orchestrated Tanya's murder is still up for question. However, one thing is certain. If Greg and Tanya hadn't gotten involved, Tanya would probably still be alive, and Belinda wouldn't have been lowballed like that. So imagine our surprise when none other than Greg shows up in the first episode of the 3rd season. Now he has a young new girlfriend, Chloe, and they're staying at the White Lotus Resort in Thailand together. The only time we see him is when Chloe points him out to Chelsea, Rick's girlfriend, and our boy Greg looks angry. Do we think Greg is going to get killed this season? Honestly, while it would be karmic justice for him to die, we have a feeling he's going to survive. Although, if he does die, we'd be very happy. John Grise really knows how to make a character that you hate. Our theory for this character is that Greg has his own problems, and whatever his problems are, they're definitely illegal and worth killing someone for. So, while I don't think Greg would die this season, I do think he's going to get up to no good and do a lot of shady stuff.
Consultation. That way I can get a better sense of what's going on with you and your body, and I could give you a cranial sacral.
Belinda. Next up on our list, we have Belinda Lindsay, played by Natasha Rothwell. We were honestly so happy to see Belinda come back this season, and she's looking fantastic. We were introduced to Belinda in the first season, where she worked as the manager of the resort's spa. She interacted with all the guests, and that's how she met Tanya. She helped guide Tanya into a spiritual chant, which helped Tanya feel better and showcased Belinda's general compassionate nature. She wants to create a wellness business based on the holistic approach, and Tanya, after getting a first-hand taste of it, offers to fund Belinda's business. This was something that Belinda had been wanting for a while, a big break that would help further her career and everything. However, while Belinda considers the prospect an avenue to create a wellness center with the same focus on holistic care, Tanya starts getting involved with Greg. Even though Tanya bailed on Belinda at their team dinner, to be honest, Belinda kept being nice and supportive to Tanya. However, despite being such a nice person who deserves the world, yes, I said it and I meant it, Belinda doesn't get a happy ending in the first season. Tanya decided to fund Greg's health treatment, and now she was backing away from her project with Belinda. This shattered Belinda's heart, and even though Tanya mentioned her in her conversation with Portia, I don't think Tanya ever fully grasped the reality of the situation that she had put Belinda through. And now we have Belinda in Thailand. It's evident that she's here to learn more about the spiritualism and holistic nature of the White Lotus Resort Spa. If she recognizes Greg, then I would assume that Belinda is here to expand her knowledge about the place. But if for some unknown reason Belinda doesn't recognize Greg, could it be that the events at the Thailand resort are actually taking place before the Maui resort incident? Some fans have been considering this possibility on Reddit, and we can totally see why, but based on the promo trailers, I think she's here to expand her knowledge and find love with Pornchai. Now, coming to the main question, do we think Belinda will be killed this season? And no, we don't. We don't think the body floating face down in the water was Belinda at all, because Zion would have reacted much more violently had it been her. Plus, in the promotional material released online, we know that Belinda considered calling the police about something related to Greg. So, could it be that she uncovers some dark truth about the Thailand resort and ends up playing a bigger role than anyone can imagine in the karmic justice that will be handed out to all the rich people here? Who knows? Personally, I would love for Belinda to rip Greg a new one, because he is the reason Belinda's hopes were destroyed, and I don't like Greg one bit. No matter where he runs to or who he finds, Greg will never be able to outrun Tanya or her memories, and Belinda plays a huge role in that. Chloe. Chloe definitely got all the alarm bells in our heads ringing. Played by Charlotte LeBon, Chloe has the vibes of a femme fatale down to a T. Something about the way she looks at Chelsea and befriends her immediately rubs us the wrong way. From their short conversation, we learn that Chloe is the current squeeze of Greg Hunt. They apparently have a house up on the hill and come down to eat at the resort. She worked as a model in London for some time, and eventually she met Greg and they started dating. Judging from the way Chloe talks about Greg, it doesn't seem like she respects him much at all. She knows that he's with her because she's young and beautiful, and she's more than happy to take the verbal assault from him and his temper tantrums because Greg is rich. Part of us thinks that perhaps Chloe is pretending to be Greg's girlfriend. What if she is someone sent specifically to befriend Chelsea and get close to Rick? But it's too soon to tell, so we can't be sure. But hey, at least one thing is certain. If someone out of this group of characters were to die, we think Chloe might be the target, but somehow she'd manage to pull it off and survive the whole ordeal pretty okay. Laurie. You know for a fact that if Carrie Coon is in a show, she's going to steal the spotlight every time she's on screen, and she did it this time around too. Carrie's Laurie is one of the 3 women on the Gal Pal Victory Tour. Unlike Jaclyn, who's a TV star and has lots of money, and Kate, who is married to rich people and totally understands the rich people's problems, Laurie is a corporate worker. When the 3 friends talk, in every scene, you can feel that none of them actually like each other. Laurie definitely doesn't feel like part of the trio. She feels more like an afterthought, side piece, etc. Even though Jaclyn paid the bill for the hotel and everything, you can see the difference between the way she treats Laurie and Kate. Laurie tries her best to incorporate herself into the conversations and take her space in them, but it's so evident that she simply doesn't fit in. Sometimes childhood friendships end up in bittersweet pullaways, and this time around is no different. It was heartbreaking to see her drinking aggressively to cope with the feeling of being left out the entire time and breaking down the moment she was in her secluded little room. Since fans of this show are just as eagle-eyed as they can get, a lot of them pointed out the awkward mention of Laurie's daughter. Kate Kate struggled, and I mean she struggled, to say that Laurie's daughter is growing up to be a cool daughter. Fans believe that given how familiar Laurie and Portia's features are, and since White Lotus is infamous for throwing surprise connections at us, it could very well be that Laurie is actually Portia's mother. I mean, that would make sense, right? Money is tight, so even though Portia is young, she gets a job for herself. Do I think she'll kill people? Honestly, I can kind of see it. I don't know about you guys, but I do feel like her mental state will keep declining the more evident the difference between her social and economic status amongst the trio becomes. The more she drinks, the angrier she gets, and with alcohol charging emotions, is it too far-fetched to imagine her going off the rails? We don't think so. Kate! The Victory Tour moniker giver Kate is played by Leslie Bibb, and she does an amazing job portraying Caddy, a housewife from a sophisticated class. She's clearly very jealous of Jaclyn's success and loves digging into Jaclyn's private life, but she wants to be like Regina George 2.0, so she refuses to be openly mean about it. She loves pointing out how she knows how hard Jaclyn's life can be and how she totally relates to being rich because of her rich husband Dave, but the vibes are off 100%. It's evident that she thinks of Jaclyn as a competitor and she's not willing to back down no matter what happens. I also find it a little jarring how evidently Kate manages to keep Laurie out of the social group. I mean, I'm not excusing Jaclyn's behavior and we'll come to that conclusion, but is it just us who noticed how Kate would repeatedly be condescending towards Laurie and her life? Like for example, right after the three ladies got into their villa, Jaclyn offered to switch rooms with Laurie because Laurie might feel secluded, which Laurie brushed aside as any close friend would, right? But then Kate starts talking about the money and how she would pay for some of Jaclyn's treatments, right? Why didn't she give Laurie the same offer? I mean, I guess you could argue about it like, oh, Kate was offering it as something to give to Jaclyn, who paid for the rooms, and I get it, but isn't it a little weird the way they're excluding Laurie, who clearly would have not been able to afford this visit or the spa had Jaclyn not offered to book the place for them? I don't know, guys. Kate feels shady to us. While she may not get killed, we can totally see Kate influencing someone with that attitude of hers to kill her. Jaclyn! Michelle Monaghan as Jaclyn Lemon is the best casting call in maybe the entire season. Jaclyn is a TV star who's out here on this super expensive trip with her friends because she wants to spend some time with them. From the way the conversations go between the three women, it's kind of clear that they've grown apart over the years. Kate is 100% jealous of Jaclyn and loves poking at her with faux concern and faux love, whereas Laurie genuinely seems to care about Jaclyn. We think Jaclyn understands this, but she still gives Kate the majority of her attention and inadvertently plays a huge role in ostracizing Laurie. From the way Jaclyn's makeup is done in each scene, we have a feeling that maybe Jaclyn is dying, and we're not the only one who has this theory. The way Jaclyn is super interested in the wellness aspect of the resort and the way she seems to not be drinking makes us wonder if she might be terminally ill and this is supposed to be her last hurrah with her friends. It would make sense that she wants to spend the last time she has before she goes into extensive treatment with her beloved gal pals, but with how catty everything is getting, we wouldn't be surprised if the three ladies end up parting ways. We really hope that Jaclyn and Laurie's friendship ends up surviving by the end of this, but we still wouldn't hold our breath about it, given that Jaclyn is kind of a bitch about everything. She knows what's happening and still lets it happen.
You want to get into some tantric later? Would that make you happy?
Chelsea, Sex Education famous Amy Loud Wood, plays the heck out of the naive, gullible, positive, and yet extremely smart Chelsea, and we love it. It takes a whole different level of mindset to be with someone as secretive and as arrogant as Rick, and yet Chelsea does so with ease. Rick spews verbal assault at her, and Chelsea simply deflects it with grace. While her bubbly personality might make you think she's stupid, you can see just how smart she is. She immediately shut down Saxon's advances towards her because she knew he had nothing good up his sleeves. If we had to guess, we'd say Chelsea is one of those characters who uses their eccentric nature as a shield. Everyone thinks they're dumb and gullible when they're not. They're cunning and calculating under the surface and manage to weasel their way out of any situation with ease. We don't think Chelsea is going to get killed, but we do think she's going to play a role in someone's, read Rick's, death. Lachlan Ratliff. The Ratliff family is a little crazy. You can see that the vibes are off from the very first scene in which they're introduced. However, if we had to pick the weirdest out of them, it's gotta be this dude right here. Sam Nivola plays Lachlan Ratliff, the youngest of the Ratliffs, and there's something hella wrong with him. He seems to be extremely awkward and quiet. Everyone talks to him in a way that kind of implies that he's the oddball out. He was accepted by both Duke and UNC, so clearly the guy's smart. But other than awkwardly supporting his sister during her monastery visit and waking up his mom after she fell asleep at the dinner table, Lachlan seems to have nothing else going for him. At least until that weird incest scene happens. I mean, we do understand why Saxon did what he did, but why was Lachlan looking at him like that, bruh? Some fans have theorized that Lachlan may actually be an adopted child. That would explain the weird comments Saxon has made, and it would also kind of make way for the darker theories that fans have cooked up. Do we think he will kill or get killed? No, but we do think Lachlan will kill someone's ego by the end of this trip. Timothy Ratliff. It is definitely interesting seeing Lucius Malfoy play the role of a typical MNC head, but okay. Jokes aside, Jason Isaac's portrayal of Timothy Ratliff definitely has us squinting at him. On the surface, he looks like a rich CEO with the perfect family, however, things don't seem to be going very well for him. Other than his wife, who seems to be struggling with some serious mental disorder, Timothy has bigger problems hanging over his head. He keeps getting calls from a Wall Street Journal guy who's asking about some investments he did with his old pal Kenny in Brunei. He definitely doesn't want to detox from the digital stuff because nothing shady is going on and he just likes his phone, okay? Based on the promo, it's pretty evident that he's going to get roped into this investigation conducted by the Wall Street Journal guy, and he's going to lose a significant amount of his wealth. Since he seems to pride himself on being a man, as shown by the boat fight with Rick for no reason, we think he's going to end up killing himself to escape the humiliation. Victoria Ratliff. Who would have guessed that Parker Posey would end up showing up in the third season of White Lotus with that horrendous accent? But here we have it. She really nails the whole "I have to smile because my family is perfect even though everything is burning around me" trope that we've noticed in CEO wives across the media. She's a pillhead, and she's clearly not doing anything to be subtle about it. She wants to be there for her husband, but how much can you truly be there for someone when staying up at the dinner table is a task you're failing at constantly? We think everyone in the house, except for maybe Lachlan, knows that Victoria has a pill problem and that they've just accepted it, which is sad. I'm definitely concerned that she's going to end up doing more harm than good to her family when Timothy's lack of fortune becomes public news. She seems like the kind of person who would rather die in a perfect family than be accepting of something that's not the norm according to her. Our guess is she's going to kill herself or get killed by Timothy if push comes to shove and shit hits the fan. Piper Ratliff. Piper is definitely an introvert, and Sarah Catherine Hook has the mannerisms of an awkward girl who prefers her own company down cold. But then again, we don't see how she could enjoy anyone's company in her family except maybe Lachlan's because of the way they behave with her. Saxon is a sexist pig, Timothy is busy being a man asserting his dominance in every conversation, and Victoria is just zonked out the entire time. It would be foolish if Piper gets killed in the story because she seems like the best character who'd be able to navigate the concepts of Buddhism out of the bunch and impart that knowledge to us, the audience. So no, we kind of don't think Piper is going to end up dying. Saxon Ratliff. Saxon is the biggest dude bro of them all. He's buff and tough and follows his father's footsteps. He thinks all there is to life is sex, and once that's there, everything else just follows. He's very obviously a frat boy, and Patrick Schwarzenegger does it so well. Every time we saw Saxon on screen, we wanted to throw something at him. We see Saxon pick up the pong-pong tree fruit, which is highly poisonous, and we personally think that it's a clue to his personality. He's a toxic man. I mean, the dude literally talked about his sister's virginity with his brother, like this was a Sunday newspaper article. I mean, we get it if he's concerned as a big brother, but do you have to call your sister hot? Also, the whole walking to the bathroom nude to jack off while your brother watches you is a little icky to us. Do we think Saxon's gonna die? Sadly, for us, we think it's no. However, his male ego is definitely gonna take a beating by the end of the season. We get the feeling that Saxon is gonna realize that women would much rather be with Lachlan, a genuine guy, over the dude bro vibe Saxon has. Given the way Saxon's personality is, he sounds exactly like one of those frat boys who would murder someone during hazing, and that's okay, so there. Rick! Rick is one of the shadiest characters introduced in this season, and Walton Goggins really shows off his acting chops. Clearly, this Thailand trip is not for pleasure, but for some unknown reason, Rick isn't allowed in Australia, and we're not going to worry about it. If the promo is anything to go off, we think Rick is a hitman. He does bring the gun into the hotel premises in the promotional material, and he doesn't seem to be remotely scared of using it. If that is the case, we think Rick and Greg are going to end up facing off. We'd be surprised if it comes to the surface that Greg and Rick are both after the same person, trying to either get close to them or kill them altogether. It seems like Sritala Hollinger's husband, Jim, is the one Rick's after, but could he end up going after Greg as well? That's the real question. Mook! Lalisa Monabal's acting debut as Mook is going rather well. She's Rick and Chelsea's cute health attendant, and she seems like the sweetest person. She has a very cute relationship with Giatok, whom we'll mention in a few, but we do think Mook is going to end up in a bit of trouble as the season progresses. We saw her talking to two dudes before Giatok called her over, and Mook claims she was talking to them because she likes traveling and wants to know about the world. It seems highly likely that there's a human trafficking racket happening close to the resort, and Mook is probably one of the many girls targeted by the racket. The way she keeps insisting Giatok take challenges also rubs us the wrong way. We'd be relieved if the whole human trafficking plot point never came to fruition, but the odds of that seem low. Giatok! The White Lotus series is infamous for giving us clues from the very first episode about the twist we're going to get while keeping things subtle, and we think Giatok is a prime candidate on the list of who might get killed this season. We know that Tame Tap Timtong as Giatok is literally Bay material, and no one wants to see him dead. But we do think it's interesting that Giatok brought up the man who he saved from drowning 2 years ago in that conversation out of nowhere. Something about that dialogue feels a bit like a clue and less like exposition. We wouldn't put it past Giatok to sacrifice his life to save Mook. He's extremely devoted to her, so it makes total sense. Even though we're putting Giatok on the list, we really hope he stays safe and sound in his security guard post and doesn't get hurt by the end of the season. Sritala Hollinger. One of the owners of the resort is Sritala Hollinger. She likes bold makeup and is very blunt about her favoritism. The only group of guests she was nice to was with the Victory Lap blondes, and that too rather obviously. She opened up to them, and we learned that Sritala used to be an actress and has many popular songs and is currently battling an autoimmune disease. That's why she created the wellness program at her resort, which makes the Thailand White Lotus the best at holistic care. We think something definitely went down between Jim, Rick, and Greg, and Sritala is unaware of it. However, she would fall victim to the crossfire if there were any. There is a ridiculous fan theory out there that we want to speak to. What if Sritala is not who she claims to be? What if her entire life is a lie and we, the fans and the characters of the series, are simply getting fooled by her charms? Did you consider that? Lek Patravati is definitely bringing the heat with her every time she's on screen, and we're here for it. We love the sassy energy she brings with the character, and the thinly veiled cattiness makes it extremely entertaining to watch her character interact with others. We wonder if Sritala has clocked Rick's obsession with her and her husband. When she eventually does, we're curious to see how it's all going to work out. If Sritala does die at the end of the show, it would either be at Rick's hands or she would succumb to her own disease. The monkeys? Now, you might be looking at your screen and wondering what exactly we're talking about. Why does it matter that they were monkeys? Well, let me tell you. We think the monkeys play a bigger role in the narrative than we suspect. Tanya and monkeys may be symbolically connected because we do see Tanya wearing clothes with monkeys on them. In the third episode of the first season, titled Mysterious Monkeys, we see Tanya finally spreading her mom's ashes. In the opening sequence, whenever Jennifer Coolidge's name showed up, there was a monkey next to it in both seasons. We see a monkey painting in the hotel room where she stays during the seasons, and Quentin mentions someone who died like a monkey before Tanya met her bitter end. So we think Tanya and monkeys are very much related. We think that by the end of this season, it could very well be that the one shooting the gun is either a monkey who's gone completely rowdy and figured out how to pull the trigger, or the shots were fired at the monkeys by someone who lost their damn mind. It's not the most believable theory out there, but it is a barrel full of fun. Marvelous verdict! So there you guys have it. This is our ragtag team of sad rich people with sad rich people problems for this season, with a group of poor people that'll inevitably get screwed over by them. We're 100% certain that this season, despite its slow start, will end up becoming one of the most entertaining and grounded seasons of the show. The problems we're seeing discussed so far, from tax evasion to fragile masculinity to excessive pressure from Hope, they're all pretty real issues. We would also keep an eye on Fabine, Pam, and Valentine because we can totally see all three of them struggling too. We're interested to see how this will take a turn for the worse, and we hope you are too. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to die this season, and we'll see you guys next time. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already, but otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.